Hello, my name's Julie Felix. When I was about 7 years old, I didn't have very many friends, unfortunately. Therefore, I used to go down to the local park where I lived in Ealing and would go on the swings. And I got my love and passion just by swinging as high as I possibly could. And I thought, what could I do that would give me this feeling of elation and love? And I realised that there was a dance school round the corner. Didn't have to worry Mum about taking me, and that I could do some dance lessons and jump and try and get myself as high as when I was swinging. And I found after, Mum said, yes, you can go there. I found after one lesson, that was absolutely what I wanted, because I was able to recreate that feeling inside of me. There's nothing like it. So I trained at Joyce Butler's. I started doing musical theatre and ballet lessons, and that was about twice a week, and it wasn't enough for me. And I asked Mum, can you go some more please? And she said, yes, go on. It was her funding, really. My dad was from St Lucia and he thought it was a waste of time. So he wasn't really prepared to put the money in, but Mum said, she was working at the time, I'll pay for you. And I ended up doing lessons pretty much every single night of the week. And I just loved it, couldn't get enough. I decided to audition for Bromberg Ballet School. And I got all the information, got myself ready, and had the audition, and I was offered a place, and I was elated. We waited for the letter to arrive because I wasn't sure. It came in the post. We didn't do emails in those days. And she said, well, pick it up, open it. And I said, I don't want to, Mum, I don't want to. This could mean everything to me. So I picked it up, I opened it, and then I said, you read it, I can't look at it. She read it out. She said, you've been offered a place. And two of us were in tears. But then she said, oh no. And I was like, what's happened? She said, we can't afford this. Look at the fees. She said, I can't, even if we've got Dad to help out, we can't do it. So I was so determined that I was obviously good enough to get into the school that I thought, right, I'm going to try and get funding. In those days, the Inner London Education Authority were giving out grants. So I applied, and I had to do yet another audition. A panel of about 4, mostly men, they looked like judges. I thought, how on earth could these people have any idea about dance anyway? So I had to do an audition, and I was offered a 75% grant. And Mum and Dad said, well, we'll be able to fund the extra 25%. My mother had wanted to be an opera singer and had the opportunity. She had a very good voice, had the opportunity to have an audition to become a chorus member for the Royal Opera. So unfortunately she didn't get to live her dream, and she said, I will push you as long as you work hard and you want to do it. The minute you've had enough, we stop it. It's up to you. So she would take me all around London. I'd do the competitions, festivals, RAD exams. We'd go on the underground all over the place, and she was my biggest supporter. The director of London Festival Ballet spoke to the director, Mariella, of the school, and said that she would love to offer me a full-time contract. However, she couldn't because of the colour of my skin, and that I would mess up the line of the corps de ballet. Therefore, I couldn't get a contract. I was absolutely devastated. The fact that I was good enough to be offered a full-time job doing what I loved in the country that I loved, but the colour of my skin meant that being one of the swans would just be unacceptable. And shortly after this disappointment, Dance Theatre of Harlem came to London, were invited by the Queen to perform at the Royal Variety Performance. And I went along to take company class just so I could get that experience, because I'd loved working with the company before, and I thought, oh, let's just see if all ballet companies are the same. So I did a company class, and Arthur Mitchell came up to me and he said, "Where are you from?" And I told him, and he said, "I'd like to offer you a contract." And I said, "Oh, well, no thank you, I don't want it." Well, when I went back to the ballet school and spoke to Marie Ellis, she went crazy when "You don't turn a job down, darling, what were you thinking of?" And I just felt so bad that I'd let her down, and the realisation is you don't turn a job down. Fortunately for me, Dance Theatre of Harlem came back to do a season at Sadler's Wells, and I went back again and took company class. And the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, it's you, you're back again." And he said, "I don't usually offer a contract twice, but," he said, "I'll offer it to you again if you want to come. But if you turn me down, that's the end of that." So there, I started the process of trying to get a passport. I didn't have a passport. I'd never flown on a plane before. The camaraderie that I felt in the company was just wonderful. I have to say, Arthur Mitchell instilled absolute professionalism in us. We represented the company. We behaved accordingly. It's all part of the education. It wasn't just you're a ballet company and you're touring around. He felt so strongly that we represent America's first all-black ballet company. So we toured all over the place, fabulous places that I would never ever have experienced if I had been offered the contract with London Festival Ballet. So as much as I thought I don't want to go, England's my home, sometimes we have to realise there is something else for us. And I've had the most incredible career ever. One of my hurts was that I would love to, in those days, been able to perform at the Royal Opera House. And the magic was that Dance Theatre of Harlem came back to London and we performed at the Royal Opera House. Years before, backtracking a little bit, my mum took me to see Madame Butterfly at the Royal Opera House. And we could only afford the tickets in the gods, right up at the very top. And just before curtain went up, she said to me, "If you keep working hard and you really, really want this, you could one day be down there on that stage as a ballet dancer." And all those years later, Dance Theatre of Harlem performs on the Royal Opera House. I get my poster of me outside on the billboard in front of the Royal Opera House. And just before the rehearsals started, the curtain is open, people are cleaning and hoovering in the auditorium, and I went out there on my own and stood and looked up at the gods, and I've got my hand on my chest and I say, Mum, you were right. I'm here, I've arrived, and it's all thanks to you. So I was at Dance Theatre of Harlem for nearly 11 years. I loved it so much, but England was pulling on my heartstrings. I thought, I need to go back to the UK. I really missed my mum and dad, my mum especially, and if I was going to have a family, I wanted them to be around to help educate them, to bring them up in the right way with me. So I made the really difficult choice. I think that was one of the lowest moments actually, now I think about it, of having to tell Arthur Mitchell that I wanted to leave. I mean, you know, he'd offered me the job twice, and rather than see me leave, he offered me a job as ballet mistress. And what did I do? Turn it down. But he was so supportive, and he said, if you change your mind, once you go back, the doors are always open. And I never went back. And going to London, I had the opportunity. Sir Peter Wright was director of Sadler's Wells Royal Ballet. He offered me a job as company teacher. And unfortunately, then Sadler's Wells went bankrupt. Birmingham Royal Ballet Sadler's Wells became Birmingham Royal Ballet. However, we had to move to Birmingham. I was rather upset because I had moved to be back close to Mum and Dad, to be back in London. But I had the wonderful job. So we moved. About 80% of Sadler's Wells dancers moved to Birmingham. So when I was with Birmingham Royal Ballet, in the education department, we formed, and I was the first person, formed the facility to take ballet, dance to the community for people who couldn't afford to have lessons. And that was called Dance Track. And we would use some of the company dancers, and we would go to schools in and around Birmingham, inner city schools in and around Birmingham. The programme was set up that they would do a performance in the hall of the school. It might have been a pas de deux or whatever was being put on in the rep at that particular time. So the children got an opportunity to see. Some of them had never seen ballet before. We were bringing it to them. We were invited, Dance Theatre Harlem, to perform at the closing ceremony of the Los Angeles Olympics. That probably was, it was definitely the largest audience that ever had to perform in front of. And it was to dance with Lionel Richie. We would attract some quite famous people. We were invited to perform at some very famous places. We went to the White House. We met President Ronald Reagan. We performed in Los Angeles, and Michael Jackson came to see us perform. It was a matinee performance, and he wanted Dance Theatre of Harlem to be a part of a film that he was making about Peter Pan, because you know he liked that. So he came to see us and came on stage afterwards and So we met Michael Jackson. In those days, the stereotypical body type was thin, long limbs, very arched feet, turnout, but you still need some talent. I just happened to have that. I always had to work on it. I always needed to stretch, but the body has evolved. You look at athletes now. You look at Olympians. What they're required. My state pension.